Hello. Today is November 10th. It is 9:23 p.m. And I am contemplating on the eve of Remembrance Day. Remembering my lost loved ones, of course. Tonight I'm thinking about Mark, of course. And a couple of videos ago, I said that I would take you through the day he died. I'm sitting here and I'm watching one of Mark's favorite shows. He absolutely loved Mad Men. I liked it. I wasn't so much of a fan of it, but he watched it over and over. I'm not sure what the fascination was for him, but he really loved that show. That and Better Call Saul, even more so than its predecessor. A few other shows that he just loved to put on over and over again. One of Mark's good friends from back in the day, Jim, sent me a photo that I had never seen before of Mark in 1984 when they were serving in the militia. Mark was just 18. And he told me the story of getting kicked out of the house. He disrespected his mother. His dad got physical with him, almost put him through a wall. Mark was a large guy, but back in the day he was very, very skinny. 6'5", tall, very skinny, and he told me his brother Todd called him Marcus the Carcass. He was that skinny. So he left home and, among other things, going to Quebec, he ended up joining the army. And his buddy Jim, who was in the militia with him, sent me this group photo, and there's no mistaking Mark in that photo. Tall and skinny with the prominent nose. Yeah. I like having those memories of my husband. Or those stories, anyway. The stories that I didn't get to hear, or the photos I didn't get to see. So, as I said, December 12th, 2024, 5:34 a.m. will forever be the worst day of my life. Followed closely by the second worst day of my life, which happened just 7 weeks later with the death of my dear mother, who I miss a lot. Yeah. Oh, this weekend I'm going to visit Mark's family, my family, in New Brunswick. His brother and sister-in-law and his nieces. And the following weekend, I will be going to an annual event that my mother absolutely adored. The Van Massenhoven Ladies Christmas get-together, where everybody brings their favorite wine and a dish, and we dig in and have a few drinks, and oh boy, do we get loud. We do. We get so loud. A lot of very opinionated women in our family. I know you're shocked. Shocked, I tell you. Back to December 12th, 2024. Which is 11 months and 2 days ago. Mark had been in the ICU for 24 days, and his brother and sister-in-law had come down to be with him, to be with us. And that day I was going to take a break. They were going to go to the hospital. I was going to sleep in and go later in the day. I was kind of looking forward to sleeping in. But the universe had other plans for me. I got a call around, I'm gonna say 4:30, 4:45, telling me I needed to come to the hospital right away. I got up, got dressed, called Todd and Denise and said they needed to come to the hospital right away. I wasn't sure what was going on. I hopped in the car and started that drive. A drive that I absolutely hate taking now because it just reminds me of every time I had to drive to that hospital to see him in that room. And every time I do that drive and every time I pass that hospital, I can look up and see the very window that his room was in, over the bay where the ambulances come out of. And I made that drive that cold wintry day, not knowing if he was alive or dead at that moment. By the time I got there, he was gone. I burst through those ICU doors, and the nurse, Lauren, I got to know them all over 24 days. The nursing staff, the respiratory staff, the doctors, they were all fantastic. They gave him the best care I could have possibly wanted for him. And the nurse, Lauren, came up to me and told me he was gone. Walked in the hospital wearing my mask, and I said, I want to see him, and she took me right into the room. For the first time in 25 days, I saw him with no tubes, no lines, nothing running into him. He had been disconnected from everything. There was no beeping, no monitors. And I got to know all those monitors and what they all meant after all that time. And it was just him laying there, partially on one side. His mouth was partially open, and his eyes were a little bit open. And he just looked like he was sleeping because he slept with his eyes partially open in the last few months, the last year or so. With his eyes partially open and his mouth open, trying to breathe properly. And that's what he looked like. He just looked like he was sleeping. I ripped off my mask. I sat down in the chair next to him. His arm was on the side of the bed. and I put my head down on his arm. And he was still warm. I could still feel the warmth of his body. And Lauren left the room and closed the door behind her so that I could spend those few moments alone with my husband. I could still feel his spirit in the room. I knew he was there. I knew he was listening to me. I don't remember what I said. But I'll be forever grateful for those few minutes I got to spend with him alone. Probably 45 minutes later, Todd and Denise came into the room. They still didn't know what had happened. And I had to be the one to tell him that he was gone. And I'll never forget seeing Mark's brother cry over his body. And I'll never forget the three of us holding each other in our grief and our shock. Because I think we all thought he was gonna come home. I thought he was gonna come home. No. I have to be here without him and live without him. No matter how nice I make this house, I will still always want my husband here with me.